Hi, I'm Ana de la Maza, and this is my informative speech. Do you know what is the third language most used in the United States? The first is English, the second one is Spanish, yet you will never guess which one is the third. The third is ASL, American Sign Language. Over 1 million people use ASL to communicate with each other, according to an article published in the Newsweek. Now, even though I'm not part of the deaf community, this is my second semester studying ASL and learning so much about their culture, history, and language. I'm going to be talking about some interesting facts about deaf culture and how the language came to be, deaf community facts, and a historical event. Even though American Sign Language is most commonly used in the United States, it has little to do with English. ASL is 60% French Sign Language, 15% to 20% Native American Signs, and 25% a sign language that comes from Martha's Vineyard, an island where deaf and hearing people all knew how to sign. This information comes from my ASL class taught by Lisa Mendoza, an active participant in the deaf community. ASL came to the United States when a rich and educated man called Fitz Coxwell's daughter was born deaf. Coxwell convinced Thomas Gallaudet to go to Europe and learned how to sign to teach her daughter and other deaf children. Gallaudet came to France and he finally found the Paris school, where sign language was being taught. He learned as much as he could and took a teacher from the Paris school with him. His name was Lauren Clark, who became the first deaf teacher of the deaf in the United States. There, they opened the first school for the deaf children, called the Connecticut School, in 1817. Now that you know about how ASL came to be, I'll be stating some facts about the deaf community. The first misconception about deaf is that they are thought to inherit their deafness from their parents. This is not true. 90% of the deaf people have hearing parents. Deaf people do hear sound, they just don't process it as we do. They process it as vibrations. Deaf people can do everything that hearing people can do, and they do not feel as they're broken in any way because they cannot hear as we do. They feel pride toward their culture, as they should. Deaf people and their families form part of the deaf community even if they're not deaf. Deaf people enjoy playing bowling, social gatherings, and sports. I have talked about ASL, how ASL came to be, and the deaf community. I will now mention a historical fact that impacted the deaf community greatly. In 1880, a congress was held to determine what was going to be the ideal way to teach the deaf. This congress was called Congress of Milan, which was held in Italy. There are two ways in teaching a child who is deaf. There is the oral way, in which the deaf child is not allowed to sign and is forced to read lips and talk. There is also the manual way, where deaf children are not forced to read lips or talk. They're able to sign, and if they want, they can learn how to talk. The Congress of Milan was composed of 163 delegates, yet only one of them was deaf. The manual way had been going very well for deaf children. They were graduating from manual schools and were attending universities and getting jobs. And they were graduating with a 12th grade reading level. Yet, in this Congress, almost everyone voted for deaf children to start learning orally. This had great consequences on the deaf children because oral education is so hard to learn. Deaf children started graduating from high school with a 4th to 5th grade level reading and writing skills. It was not until 1960s where manualism started to be implemented in schools again. All of this information comes from my ASL teacher, who is an active participant in the deaf community, from my ASL 2 class. In conclusion, after this video, we have a better sense of the deaf community and what it entails. I have talked about how the American Sign Language came to be, some deaf community facts, and a historical event that impacted the deaf community drastically. Now, you are aware of the deaf community, and hopefully you have a new respect for it. Thank you.